Oh, exciting day today. I'm not in the garden. We are going out to the Melbourne Flower and Garden show. So it was my first time to the show, and I was so excited. It's held in this Melbourne exhibition, exhibition center. And as we entered, there were all these floral displays, and so just at the entrance we saw this beautiful caravan, and it was full of native plants. Well, all the branches and even the flowers were mostly sort of from the Proteaceae family. And it was so cute, that shades of green. Beautiful arrangement. So they had that right at the entrance when we walked in, and they had a whole setup done there by the caravan. So it had a sign saying a Ravenstop Flower Show, so I suppose that's coming up in September. That's an advert for their next show. And then as we walked further in, there were all these lovely displays. Oh, I didn't know what to look at first. It was just so much of beautiful stuff. And this arch was so cute, and they just made it only with branches. So I removed all the audio because there was a lot of music around, and I didn't want to get any copyright marks. And yeah, so we came into the hall where all the floral displays were, showcased. There were a lot of small colleges and stuff that also did their displays. This dahlia is for all the dahlia lovers. What a pretty shade combination they did here with all the burgundies and pinks. Looks so gorgeous. Imagine that tablescape. Well, there's no place to sit and eat. The flowers seem to fill up that table. And then there were these pitcher plants hung up. They did like a sort of mini forest effect with all the roots. It was so cute to see all the pitcher plants. More displays of, little floral displays in vases, and this was another tablescape. As you can see, I've been swiveling my head from side to side. I didn't like this table so much. It had oranges and pinks and stuff, but what caught my eye was that rose. That shade was so unusual. And then more displays here. These are just botanical moments. So a lot of the florists and shops and things, they did displays inside the exhibition center. There were a lot of displays, hung up as well. And I just was skimming through this portion because we were rushing to go outside. But I tried to capture all these hanging displays, which was so beautiful. I mean, this yellow, that was just stunning. All shades of yellow was so bright and summery. And yeah, as I said, we are rushing to go outside because the weather was going to change. But this display, God, I could have stood here for quite a while to look at it. It was so beautiful. Just all these shades of green and the gray green. It was just so beautiful. And they had a lot of hydrangeas in there mixed with the native leaves. And that little puffy ball thing, it's a plant. I don't know its name. Maybe you know the name. But they made it like a chandelier, which looked so cute. So, so creative. Too beautiful. Just some rose displays here on hay bales. Yeah, as I was saying, the morning was going to be good. but we were going to get rain towards the afternoon, so we went early to try and see as much before the rain started. And we thought we'll go do the gardens and come back inside. I just took a shot of the old building, the ceilings, and yeah, so we could always come back inside. How pretty was these orchids? And then, yeah, so from the exhibition building, we get out onto the gardens, and this is the Carlton Gardens in Melbourne, which is in the city, and you will see all the buildings surround this garden. The garden is actually quite lovely on its own, and all these displays are set up here for the annual show. And the show runs from Wednesday to Sunday, and we went on the first day to take advantage of the beautiful weather. And yeah, just a little bit of the gardens itself. And then we started off here. These were the little boutique style gardens, which was so beautiful. I don't know what this material is that she used to elevate this. It looks like maybe some root of a huge tree, but that was unusual. And it's made in a small space, so quite achievable. I mean, we can't get that root if it is a root unless you make some, probably you could use decking. But yeah, that texture in that was so beautiful. And then moving on next to it, there was this longevity garden, which was very quirky. They had the outdoor gym and a sauna, so I suppose you can enjoy the green space while you work out. And I liked the way they grew all this little creepers over the paving, so it just softened the edges of that brick. And then next to it was this garden. I can't remember what it was, but the name is there on the board. But this was all about circles. So everything was so circular. Even the stairs were a circular shape coming down. And they had this huge pond. I think it was a splash pool, plunge pool. Maybe it's a spa. But all in white. And all so dainty flowers around it. And mass planting, so you can't really see the pots and things, which made it, it just softened the effect of the concrete around it. And all those circular edges, even the seating was circular. And then next to it had this beautiful corten steel. I noticed a lot of the gardeners used corten steel this year. And this was on a large scale. I mean, there's no way. I mean, you need a landscaper to do this, but it's nice to look at. Just relax out there in your little plunge pool. So beautiful though. Look at them. They had this wall there with their towel and their bottle of wine. It looked very, very relaxing. Very nicely done. What is it called? Reverie. Very nice. And I love the way these little trailing plants go over the corten steel. So I suppose if you had a big tree instead of a smaller scale, it would be, more privacy as well. Oh, that was called Reverie. And then next to it was such a cute little greenhouse. And the designer said she built it herself. It was so beautiful. I love that stairs. It was the stone stairs, slabs of stone there, and the planting was so cute. A lot of natives as well, but the way it was just mass planted and the height difference was so well done. I just loved it. The color scheme even, and it was so nice to see some plants that I also had, and that grass was so, it softened the edges of the garden. Stunning. And yeah, she said she made the greenhouse herself, and it was from recycled material, and she just painted it. And it was a quite small space, so you can see it's so achievable. I love that the design of it. And the greenhouse was so cute as well. It looks, so small, but it was nice and spacious. Very beautiful. And yeah, you can see from the side how narrow that greenhouse was, but still it, looks so good. And then just some shots of the gardens around as we walked. So when we got in, it wasn't as busy, but it got full so quickly. We took a quick breakfast break, some energy, and then we carried on. And there was this feature garden at the corner, which was under this massive fig tree. It's very significant to the Indigenous community, and they had an Indigenous ceremony here at this feature garden. Yeah, so the garden, as I said, is it's a culturally significant place, and it's a gathering place actually. For generations, the Bolan has been a gathering place for harvesting, for sharing, and for celebrating. So it's a very traditional setting, and they've done this as a feature garden. And all the plants are all native species, that's part of this harsh Australian environment, and how, the land and people survive and respect each other. So it was very lovely. And you could see that, they've put even dried grasses there to show the harsh environment, how it is. Nothing is always green and lush. And yeah, very nicely done. So they had the ceremony there as we got there. And so we waited till everything was done and we could walk through. Yes, so that tree is a very significant tree as well, because that's where the community gathers. There was this one tree that actually, the leaves were so different, because it some leaves were straight and then it split into a finer leaf. And I don't know, this tree the leaves just change, and it's, not, it's I don't know if it starts from the bottom or the top, because it was all over certain leaves that changed. And I didn't find out what it was. So it would be good to know. And there's a little sign of what the gathering place was about. You can have a read through. And then as we walked through, we saw all these, these huge bottle trees and the various stalls that, landscaping suppliers had this raised planters, all metal planters and metal raised gardens. That grass tree was also featured quite a few places, and you can see this cotton steel little pond. And the reason I recorded this was because I've got the same lomandra grass and that what you call chrysocephalum, and it looks so pretty when it's mass planted in a row like that. Yeah, and this next stall had this lovely pots there, and they were metal. And that rib edging was so beautiful, and it looked so stunning. Really, really smart, those pots. And they're nice and wide. You could plant so much in them. Yeah, I wish I could buy them, but they were quite expensive. Then we had some tools and all these lovely gardening clothes. So I just tried to capture whatever was around me. And there was this place that had a swing chairs to relax in. And yeah, and then we came to the little border gardens. So these were beautiful. All the competitions were there and you could vote for them. There were QR codes on them. And this was so cute. It had a little bee hotel even, set in the garden. Looked absolutely cute with the lamb's ear and the plants surrounding it. So it was a very lush garden that incorporated sort of everything in it. So it was a very nature and insect friendly garden that you could welcome all the creatures to this space in such a small space. And that olive tree was shaped so beautifully. I think they call them cloud trees, the way they shape the branches. Such a small, I think it's probably like 2 meters by 2 meters maybe. Very, very nicely done. The next street was another little, I didn't fancy this one, but the bees loved it because it had a lot of salvia in it. Yeah, that was a simple border garden. And then, yeah, there were a few next to each other and they alternated different things. And the other one was, this was a more of a herb garden. So they did only a lot of edible herbs. And next to it was another, low maintenance garden. But I was going to say, you can see a lot of cotton steel everywhere. This was another cute little border garden. They made stepping stones and they used a lot of beautiful little daisies, and they had water incorporated there as well for the birds. All hardy plants. All those tall ones are kangaroo paws. The yellow and the purple are kangaroo paws, which is a native Australian plant, very hardy. And they had the billy buttons there, which I have, and some dusty muller. And this garden was from a nursery that I know and I've been to quite a few times. So it was so lovely to see their display. And they raised the garden up and used a lot of succulents. And I have that sedum as well. So I was so excited that I had those plants, so many plants that I had as well. And they did a cute little fountain like running from the top to the bottom, and they made these they put shells along that tubing, like for the waterfall. So beautifully done with agaves in between there, and it was called Land Before Time, I think. Very nicely done. So that nursery is a very nice nursery. It was so lovely to see their display here, their little border garden. And they just kept the colors to a minimum, which looks so neat with all these gray greens and just the little pink in that sedum. And then I took some photos of the gardens that were next to it. It started getting really busy, and that was as more people started to come in so quickly. The place was filling up that I couldn't stand and film much, so I tried to get some photos in from all around. And then the next garden that I managed to see was next to it. And that was so cute because it looked very autumnal. And we are in autumn here in Australia. So a lot of the gardeners have kept it pretty simple. And this one looked very much with the autumn theme. And she had this beautiful, beautiful Sangosorba. And I like that. I don't have it, and it's so hard to get it. And I spoke to her, and she told me which nursery she got most of her stuff from. You can see the bees were out. They were loving all this spread. And she had beautiful little orange blossom. It is called orange blossom, Agastake orange blossom. Yeah, lovely. And she had a dark sedum as well, which was so cute. And a lot of them, used water. So everyone incorporated water in the garden, and it was very nature or insect friendly theme sort of. And this garden was really pretty as well. They made a little feature on top of this pillar. And when I looked at that, it looked like cotton steel, but then it looked like rusted wax stay, welded together because it had handles and stuff. But it looked so pretty. It looked like a flower. And they had a lot of gara and beautiful, beautiful. It looked so ethereal that, that whole thing was full of floaty gara and the grasses, so much of height. And they put a mirror in the center, which was so beautiful. It was a door, I think. And yeah, so you could see from both sides that same rusty feature pot that they had, or architecture or garden art. Very nicely done. And they also had a lot of sedums, so that pink and the dark autumn joy was there. So they also had a lot of hardy plants, because you could see that apart, I think, from the box, the rest are all succulents and the gara, mostly, plants that don't need a lot of attention. And that gara, they had like a miniature one as well, so not as tall on one of the sides. Beautifully, beautifully done. It was so exciting to see it. All these colors. And this one, I think, had the most sort of color in it. Everyone was flocking around there. I was lucky to get a good shot of that. And then next to it was very simple, very naturalistic, very Australian type, with this fallen logs and just simple planting with few things that look so good. And then I tried to get some shots of greenhouses. I got no space for a greenhouse, so just for whoever's interested, I tried to get in some shots for you guys, because there's no chance of me ever having a greenhouse. Yeah, so there was so much of stuff, and I took the audio out, as I said, because lots of music was playing around. And this guy here with this drum furniture, he cut it out and made seats, and they were swivel seats. So much of fun. And then we got to the nursery sales, all the plant nursery sales, and they had a display done. Well, they did a lot of displays for the nurseries, the sellers that were there. And this display at this one nursery, they did it in remembrance or to commemorate, the bushfires that we had. And they had these logs. Oh my God, they were, all these burnt and charred tree stumps and branches that they laid it out, and then they set flowers in between, and all the flowers are like fire. It's so beautiful. So it's on this end, it's just all the reds and yellows and oranges and the dark burgundies in amongst all the burnt wood. And you can see at the background, they've got all the fire brigade, and they've got the towns that were affected by that fire, and the homes lost. And then on the other end of it is renewal, like they've got the bird, and they've created like a sort of a nest with the flowers on the other side. So you can see from that destruction on one end, and that it comes renewal on the other side. It was so touching to see that. So it was very nicely done. They had a lot of obviously all the plants that were displayed there, they had them on sale as well. And the asters were like colors I hadn't seen before. And then down on the other side had more garden art that you could buy. I didn't even spend much time in this. I don't know why. I was supposed to come around again, and I didn't end up going back there. It was just so much to see. And as I said, this was the first time that I came to the gardens, and I didn't know. I was just overwhelmed. I was trying to look at everything too quickly and running from side to side. So I got a shot here of this Australian bulb. So you can see there's no leaves, but just huge flowers, which was so pretty. I mean, you can plant it and imagine these flowers will just stand up amongst the other foliage. And they had a display of all the native bulbs, that flower, I suppose, in over autumn and winter. And there were quite a few stalls as well selling bulbs, because now is the best time. So whoever came prepared, ready to buy all their bulbs in readiness for spring, this is the perfect place to get it. There was so much of choice. I didn't know what would grow, what wouldn't grow. So I was scared to buy them because, I'm not a great bulb planter. But how good are these tulips? That pink is so beautiful. Yeah, they had them mass planted, so everyone was just, that place got so busy. The first round I walked wasn't so bad, but the second time when I came there, you couldn't go in. And look at these dahlias. They had dahlia tubers as well, so you could see what you were buying. There were lots of stalls with all these cute little stuff, and they were, succulents galore. You could buy whatever you want. And they made these cute bonsais with the succulents. I don't know how they manage that, and I don't know how would you water that, because succulents don't want a lot of water, but bonsais need a lot of water. So it was good to see how they styled all of it. And they had so adorable bonsais. Yeah, it's so hard to go to these shows, I suppose, when you want to buy and buy and buy. And this cute little Banksia art. Oh, and this, I have to mention, this cute fox. Oh, he was so adorable. Whoever made him, it was so cute. And look at his fluffy blue tail. I just loved it so much. It was so well done. Ah, that was so cute, that fox. And then anyway, so you can see now we walk around the gardens, and it's so beautiful, set in between the city and all the city skyscrapers around it. And this garden in the center looks so beautiful. And with the sun out, it was a perfect morning with these arches. And this was one of the larger display gardens. This was called, I think, Love Blooms Here. Yes. And he did, apparently there was going to be a wedding in that garden. And it was so beautifully done and so massive. So we just watched the designer. He said there was actually going to be a wedding held in that garden space. He did this whole design. It was so beautiful, absolutely stunning. And they had it set right in front of the exhibition center. So they had that as, borrowed landscape. That dome looks so beautiful about the garden. I was lucky that I managed to get quite a good view of it, because when I came around again, it was too busy. You couldn't even get close to this. And, with the current trees that are in the garden, just made this place so magical. And the plants, look at these plants. They, he used so many, it looks so simple, but the color scheme is perfect. Just little pops of blue and all the cream, and there were these large pots around it. The pots were beautiful. And I tried to get a picture of all the pampas grass around the lake in the gardens. And then we just moved on to, the other larger gardens next to it. And again, more cotton steel, a lot of grass here. Very simple. This one is very simple. So you won't see a lot of flowers. Nobody had heaps of flowers here, because I suppose it's because this show takes place in autumn, and they don't want to, or they want to give it a more realistic feel. Oh, this was a lovely garden, beautiful, the magical palm trees. I don't like palm trees, even though I say they look good, but I don't like them. But this garden was done so nicely, and they had this massive plunge pool. I don't know whether it was a plunge pool or what it was, but that bowl was huge. And also, it's not too big of a space, but they incorporated so many things in there. And they had seating on one side, and they had a fire pit. They had a nice barbecue area. So lovely, the pergola made over there, and it, just different levels. So on the top level was a fireplace, and then at the bottom were these stepping stones with that lush grass. Ivan liked this, and he voted for it for the people's choice. Very, very lovely. And they had this carex, which is called Bad Hair Day. It is so fun. And they had so much of it. I saw it once in the store and I wanted to buy it and I didn't. I should have just taken it because when I went again, I couldn't find it anywhere. And this planting here, you could see the textures, just all grassy textures and different shades, mass planted, looked so unique. I mean, not unique, but so well done with this bad hair day carex, and then that gray, silver gray leaves, and then amongst all of that, this massive spiky texture in the center there is so lovely done, and very, very just different shades of green, and so many varieties of grasses they used, and they used some white kangaroo paw in the center, so they kept the color scheme very simple. And then there was this cute little kids play area, or not kids play area, it was one of the garden displays, and it was called children's garden or something like that, and there were a lot of school kids that had visited, so they were having so much of fun in this garden that they created. Very, very smart. It was very interactive, so the schools that visited enjoyed the space. I didn't get to fully see this one. I don't know why. Again, I just looked around and I didn't go right in, but it was so beautiful. It was called the Wild Place. And then the next one, this one, I love this garden room. So lovely. This black, just stood out amongst this grass, this mess. A lot of people use this wavy grass. I don't know what grass it is, but it's so lovely. Mass planted. And a lot of proteas, or the Proteaceae family. And they had all this, a lot of native plants planted around here, but it was so well done. I just loved this grass, the softness and the soft textures amongst this massive boulders. So they had, this fireplace set in the garden here, and different angles, so it wasn't nothing was straight, it was just all haphazard shaped that made it look so beautiful. I just loved it. They mass planted so much of stuff here, and it looks so natural. These paper daisies, everlasting daisies, were so lovely. These gardeners are fantastic. Oh, I don't have that vision. Imagine sitting in that space. And they had a lot of these massive grass trees. And, as I said, Proteaceae, all the Proteas, Protea family plants there. That foliage is so lovely. But yeah, this was so good because it was a mixture of this delicate grass, so much of this fluffy grass and this massive boulders set into it. So it's just that contrast of hard and soft next to each other, and so lovely that grass just fans over the rocks. It looked so welcoming. You could just, slide down that grass. And they, use these structures with wood, as walls, so they made it into a feature, which was so beautifully done. This place was just stunning. I loved it. I just loved everything about it, And all the plantings, even I loved it. It wasn't, everything is very hardy plants, so nothing delicate. You could just plant it and forget. That was it. You don't have to be taking care of it every day. It's just there. It will just be doing its own thing. I really, really enjoyed this space. And that black is so good, you know, painting things black, because they just give you that contrast against the plants, makes the plants stand out. They even had a pool. They had a black pool, and it was so huge in there. Then next to it, another larger space as well. This was more formal, and you could see, you know, but this cute little this aisle of birch. I don't know if it was birch, but they had it like shaved on top. It was trimmed down, and it made a sort of a walkway, which was so beautiful and so cute. They did it so well on either side. So very formal, everything matched on both sides. And this lovely pink, I don't know what this is, but I don't know what it is, but it was so pretty with that wispy things falling on either side. And the next garden on the other side, I can't remember what this was called, but this had a lot of, it was looking very, also had a lot of autumn colors here and very busy. They had a lot of grass incorporated too, but it worked well. I mean, you know, if you're into it, you could see they did a good job of planting, or the plant combinations. I like when things spill over the wall. Yeah, with that building in the center, looked really, really, you know, just elevated this garden. And they had a pool in the center, or just a water feature like a pond. All their colors were so in keeping with the autumn tones. And they were the only ones that had trees with autumn color. The rest of the gardens used all evergreens and all Australian trees and plants which are evergreen. So this garden had a lot of deciduous trees with autumn color. Next was a quick one. I just walked by it. It was very urban garden. Also, lots of hardy plants with the kangaroo paws on the side, like a hedge of kangaroo paws. And then there was another garden next to it that had these massive concrete silos. So I don't know what the silos were, but it was busy. They were giving a talk and stuff. So yeah, so I liked the way they planted on top of the silos, because with all those dichondra spilling over it was beautiful. And their garden, they were giving a talk saying you need to welcome all the species into the garden, which was good. And then how good is this protea frame, and lots of little cute moments all over with these baskets, and at the stalls people just did lovely displays. The baskets were so cute, and lavender bunches. And this cute little border garden was so adorable with bunnies, bunny topiaries. And it was an edible garden. I mean, they had trailing rosemary and herbs and lettuce and stuff. So it was so playful and lovely, and also a bowl of water there. Very cute with such a small space. And then well, this garden display was in one of the nursery stalls. So they did a whole display in the center of their stall, which was very nicely done. God, they went all out, and you could, go around. All the plants were laid out on the side, so you could buy any of them. And I saw my humble Aster Prince, which I don't care much for, but it's so lovely to see it here. And they were so in mass, and the bees were just loving the asters. Oh, next garden. This garden was too beautiful. I mean, these are gardens for small spaces. So, there's lots of city gardens that are quite small. And look at how stunning they did this little decking curving around with trees around it. And you can see the walls that, usually everyone has. And they've planted just lovely trees there. There's a myrtle, and the water feature in this grass or woven basket sort of thing was so beautiful. I really liked it. I mean, there's not much planting here. There's mostly they're stepping stones, and they just put all these little steppable plants that you can plant as fillers around the stones. So lovely. And all the gardens along this row were for small spaces, small city gardens, which a lot of people that are living close to the city, or most of the people that have small gardens. And this white, I don't know what was it. This was like a tropical garden, and it did get some award. So they just painted the walls, and it just elevated the space. So I suppose you could do that too, and just make the garden look so bright, like a sunset. And the next garden was also another small space, very nicely done here. And, you could see a small step, or even for your front garden, as you can use it as an entrance idea. The next space here, they used bamboo and, made some bamboo art on these feature walls that just also very simple planting, just grass in a row there. And it looks so good. The next one was also very simple, just white walls and a lot of rocks. So a rock garden, but so beautiful with the water flowing there. They had a mini waterfall they had 3 waterfalls, which was so tranquil. And again, so minimal planting, but it's such a calming space. You just want to sit in there, and all the bowls were this turquoise that gave that pop of color. The next garden was also very nicely done. They had a bit of vertical planting at the back against the black wall, and just grasses and stuff. Also very easy, so low maintenance garden, but you had your seating in there, and you could just relax in your space with this gravel path going to your door, going to your back, back to the parking or to the road. So it's a very small space, but so doable. So they had great ideas. You could see yourself in your space, like imagine it where your door is, and there you enter into your small courtyard, and this is what you can do. So if you don't want a lot of plants, just put some garden art there and throw some grass around it, and you're good to go. Very, very stunning. And they use a lot of raised planters here, so that elevated the plants. In the next garden, they used a lot of color, but what I found interesting was they painted the back walls green, so it blurred that space of where the wall was. And they used a lot of these plants and shrubs that have wispy texture, so it just flowed in the breeze and blended the wall and the garden. And they also had this lovely woven basket space, which was so lovely. And as we were coming out towards the entrance again, there were all these scarecrows. They were done from by the primary schools. So all the different schools had sent in scarecrows. And then once we got inside, we were back to seeing all the floral displays, which was so beautiful. And I looked at this grass because I picked up one of these palm fronds at home, and I've got it at home, and they used it in this display. It was so beautifully done. Stunning. Look at these hydrangeas. I mean, that color, beautiful, beautiful color. This was like on a cloud full of hydrangeas. So all the hydrangea lovers, look at that color. Such deep reds. These were all the floral competitions, so you could see all the little entrances and the sunflowers. Wow. These are those fluffy sunflowers. More displays. I love the grass, amongst all these colors. This was only orchids. I don't know how they did that. And there were some very modern takes on the floral displays. So they used lots of lighting effects. And this, you can see lots of branches and stuff here. But the one that I was really impressed with was this grass. It was called a wave. And they made a wave out of grass and just all the dried, those seed pods, those white seed pods on the top. I can't remember what they're called, but they're actually seed pods. It was so beautifully done. I mean, how good is that wave? Just with grass and texture and the white flowers, the white frothy, waves over the waves. So beautifully done. And this one is also lovely, also, with just the grass and lilies and just a sandy background that made the lilies stand out. So a lot of them kept it simple, but it still looked so beautiful. Just leaves, or, these are just eucalypt leaves, and some very sculptural. And I hope you enjoyed this show. I hope you enjoyed the Melbourne Flower and Garden show, because it was so much fun. I just loved it. It was my first time, as I said, being to the show. So maybe next year I'll be a bit more better at trying to capture stuff, because now I was trying to look, admire, touch, and then try to record or remember to record. So yeah, it was so beautiful, and I don't know if I got to see everything myself, because it was just so overwhelming. So many beautiful things. I didn't know whether to buy stuff or come back around and see stuff. So anyway, if you've been to a flower and garden show, I'm sure you know what it's like. But it's so enjoyable. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this, and you guys have a lovely weekend, and I shall catch you next week. Bye.